I graduated college and I thought, how am I going to pay back my student loans? Because they surprised me with a bill. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll go into modeling. But they told me I was too short, thank God. So I thought, well, I've been around theater my whole life. Let me try acting. And I lucked out. I got a spot on a Law and Order. And I guess I caught Dick Wolf's eye, and he cast me in his next series, which was Man of Machine. So that's how I moved from New York here. And then, as I was saying before, Universal basically owned me because the next big thing I did was Hard Target. So that's how that came into play. I had never even seen a Jean-Claude Van Damme film. Sorry, Jean-Claude. That's just not my style. So when I found out about it, I watched a lot of his films, and I didn't know John Woo at all. And I watched Hard Boiled and Killer, which were just amazing. And I immediately fell in love with his work. So I really wanted this role. So I remember at the screen test, I was so nervous, but I was able to, it's a scene where I was crying and I managed to cry on cue. So I think that that's why I got the picture. Chuck Ferrara wrote the script, and he's an amazing man and just a wonderful guy. And he wrote this great script about this woman who's looking for her father and who's turns out to be homeless. And through that, we find out what's really happening, which is that people are hunting people for sport and people that really can't be traceable. He played my father in the film. He gets killed in the very beginning because we're establishing that this is happening. And then I go looking for him, but so people know that he's dead already, but I don't. So, but yeah, he played my father in the film. I hung out with Chuck a lot because he's a really cool dude. We went to shoot the film in New Orleans, I think for like 4 months. It was a long shoot. I bring my mom. I have my momager. She helps me, because you're working so many hours a day. When you're working 18 hours a day, you can't even get milk, let alone, think about what's for dinner. So she's great. She worked in Broadway theater, as I told you before. And so she knew everything from contracts to milk.
Fucking bitch.
I don't do damsel in distress well. You know what I mean? I'm a stronger character than that. So it's against type for me to do that. So I made myself as thin as possible also to justify some of the stuff in the film that happens. Because when you're with the ultimate protector, Jean-Claude Van Damme, there's not a lot for you to do. So, there's this one scene where I pick up a gun and I yell, "Chance!" and I throw it to him instead of using it. And so some of the stuff was a little dated and hard to play. But yeah, I did make myself as thin as possible so I could justify having to be with the ultimate protector. So, but when you're with the ultimate protector, what do? There's not a lot to do. I was 21 years old. I was brand new to the business. It was completely overwhelming, and I'm working with some of the top stars that there are in the industry. Wilford Brimley, yeah, he hit the back of my horse so hard. It was like his version of pulling my hair in school. You know what I mean? My horse we're in the bayou, my horse took off at full speed. You know that bow and arrow that he always carried? He hit it with the bow so hard that my horse took off going 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I'm ducking trees, and it was really dangerous. And I had 6 stunt guys galloping after me to try to save my life because the horse wouldn't stop, and I had to jump from one horse to the other. They were so pissed at Wilford. But other than that, they called us to set one day like 3 hours early, and we were riding around in the bayou, and we just had a great time because he owns a rancher. He's a rancher or something, so he's used to horses. There was a fart machine on set. I don't know who brought it, but Wilford Brimley, every time he would say to a PA, "Can you pick that up for me?" And the PA would pick it up and he'd let this thing rip. It was like, and then we had to hide it because it got to be too much. It was all the time. And he did it constantly. And he thought it was hysterical. And then Jean-Claude brought it back out for about 2 weeks. But it was like, every time somebody would, lift their leg to get on a horse or something, it was a fart machine. It was like being in 3rd grade. We had a great time. It was really nice. Arnold Vosloo played the best bad guy in the world. He was so intimidating, isn't he? Just his look in that, and he's the sweetest guy. But just that him in that film was just, it was like the hair on the back of your neck stood up. Every time you saw Arnold, it was crazy. He was great in the film. I was so relieved to finally get to work with Lance, you know, instead of being chased by him or running away from him, or that we finally had a scene together. It was his idea to take my hair and to put it, because it was so long at the time, and to put it and hold it like that. I think he takes one of the bows or something and holds it like that. And it was a great idea. Just to watch him and to see him perform was, I mean, he was just great in this film. He was really scary. He was really intimidating to watch, which was good for my character because I'm supposed to be intimidated by him. I think he's an underrated actor, truly.
What kind of a name is Chance?
Well, my mama took one.
Van Damme. He's, as I said, he's from Europe, so there's this dashing, dapper quality about him. And anybody who treats my mother well is good in my book. So he would always call her Mama, Mama, and he would hold open the door for her. And I mean, he was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. He started in ballet, didn't he? So, I mean, yeah, those splits that he can do and everything, that's real. I mean, he can really do those stuff. So watching him was really, I learned a lot from him, actually, in terms of martial arts. That's why I got typecast as this action chick who knows how to, I never learned how to, you know, it's a miracle I knew how to horseback. I'm from New York City. I'm from Manhattan. We don't do that there. Jean-Claude told me this, and it was the best advice ever given. He said, when you stand on a bank line, squeeze your buttocks. Squeeze your buttocks hard. When you stand at grocery line, squeeze your buttocks hard. You will have an ass like me. It was hysterical. And he's got a great ass. So I did. I still do it to this day. I wish I had an ass like Jean-Claude's. I also know this. It was very hard for, and he worked very hard on trying to have a Cajun accent and had to dub 80% of the film so he could try to improve it because he wasn't happy with, he's from Belgium, trying to do a Cajun accent, so that was not easy for him, to be sure. So he ended up dubbing like 80% of the film. I can't imagine acting in a different language, so my hat's off to him there. To watch him work was really, he's the dancer, and John Woo was the choreographer. Thank God I had ridden horses before, and you know, but I've never had 60 squibs going off and being shot at, you know, and I love stuff like that, you know, because if you don't do stuff like that, it's like being invited to the playground, but not being able to go in the sandbox. You know what I mean? So I love doing stuff like that, but it was dangerous. I mean, I remember dodge, you know, and they were like, the squib is here. I said, I can't remember that. Just make sure you don't hit me. When I'm bobbing and weaving, I'm literally doing that to save my life. So it wasn't that hard to play because I was petrified. I'm terrified of snakes. I can't stand snakes. So there's that scene where the snake comes over. They had to build a mechanical snake. I couldn't handle it. That snake is not real because I could not handle having to do that at all. So they had to build a mechanical snake. I must admit, I know I feel like the P word, but what are you gonna do? They wanted to get a shot of us on the bike without, because we're not wearing helmets, obviously, because then it would be our stunt doubles. So it's us, I forget who we're trying to get away from, probably Lance. And Jean-Claude said, I can ride the bike. And it was a hairpin turn off and going up and off ramp. So it was a hard turn. So what happened was we're taking the bike like to camera here. They see our faces, and then we turn and we go up. And unfortunately, he was losing control of the bike. And the next thing I know, I woke up covered in blood on the side of the road with Jean-Claude apparently kicking the bike like one of his super powerful kicks because it was flying towards me. And yeah, we both got banged up pretty badly, so much so that, as I told you, we went to the hospital and all the nurses were like, Jean-Claude! And I'm like, I'm injured over here, thanks. Yeah, they could care less. It was bad. John Woo was so he felt horrible about it. That day, after being codioned out, Jean-Claude and I are codioned out from being at the hospital, we're supposed to be running away from Lance. And John Woo shot it in slow motion because we couldn't run. We were like limping across the thing. It was pathetic, so he had to do something. So he shot it in slow motion, which was his favorite thing to do anyway. Talking to us about character wasn't really what he did. What he did masterfully was to choreograph this entire epic shot. I mean, we had 5, 6 cameras going on at once, and he's just a master at the camera. So that was mainly what he focused on. He does what he did best, which was, it was amazing. It was never a dull moment. I mean, poor John Woo had the studio breathing down his neck at every moment. And I mean, if we had shot here, it would have been devastating because at least they had to fly out to New Orleans to, but, and what I was telling you before is and I forget his interpreter and assistant's name, but he was a wonderful man. And when John Woo didn't want to hear something, he would give a look to his assistant, and his assistant would tell the network guys that there wasn't a word in Chinese that translated. So I'm sorry, he can't do what you want him to do because I can't translate it. There's just no word for it. And I knew that they were lying. But, you know, just let him do what he does best. And they were just so nervous about it being his first American film that they just didn't leave him alone for a second, which I feel for the guy, I really do. We just had a blast. Again, it was me and a million guys. So, you know, at lunchtime, it was just me, and literally at a table, it would be 20 guys. So, and I'd mostly hung out with the stunt guys because they were really cool. So, and very daring. There was just so much action and it was such a huge movie that I'm sure they had to cut a bunch of stuff out, but I don't really remember other than the love scene being cut. It was in the script. I don't know why they cut it because it was really beautiful. John Woo put like, 300 candles around. I mean, it was gorgeous and it was beautifully shot. I have absolutely no idea why it got cut. Maybe because it wasn't really prevalent to the script. I don't know. All of a sudden, we decide to have sex, which is so nonsensical that, you know what I mean? It was just doing it for having a love scene. So I think that's why they cut it out of this one, because it just didn't really make any sense. It's like all of a sudden we decide to have sex. It just didn't make any sense. While I'm looking for my father and in one of the worst times of my life, yeah, I'm gonna give it up. And what I remember is Jean-Claude's extensions for that. I'm sorry. Sorry. Apparently they were very expensive, but I don't know who came up with that hair design, but mullets are not my thing. They just aren't. But apparently they were back then. I'm so proud to be involved in something like Hard Target because it was one of the most masterful films, I believe, made. I can't believe that was 30 years ago. Best experiences of my lifetime. You know, it really was. And when I say I wasn't happy about my job acting in it, it was just, I think it was more the typecast of the character. It's hard to play, you know, and, but I just wish that I had brought more for the people that were so talented. You know, there was so much talent there with Lance and with Jean-Claude and with John Woo that I wish I had learned. I was learning as we went along. So, and I find often, because I didn't really study acting, you know, I took a couple of classes here and there, but I hit it off so big that you could only go downhill from there, right? So it was like I got shot out of a cannon quickly, and I was learning baptism by fire. So when you start off as an android, that's the most beautifully created thing on the planet, you can only go downhill from there. But I've had a fun ride. It's been fun.